So I want to show you guys 3 really simple seated reformer exercises. I find these to be the most accessible for a lot of my clients that may have some mobility issues. So if you have someone in a chair, then you can absolutely park the chair right in front of the reformer, or you could also do this in standing if the person is able to stand. For the sake of the video, I'll just show you the one sitting. We've got that gear bar all the way in, so that bar is closest to me, that stopper is also closest to me. I'm on one spring or one heavy spring, but of course you can absolutely adjust that according to your client's needs. We're going to bring that chair as close to the reformer as possible, so if you need to take any footrests off of a wheelchair, you will probably have to do that. I've got a tall box here, so this one has a little bit of extra height. You may have one that's a little bit shorter. It may work better depending on your client. You can also do this pressing right against the carriage. But before I get ahead of myself, I'll show you the exercise. We're going to have 2 hands on the front corners or the front edges of the box. We're going to look for that nice trunk support from here and then work through a little bit of forward flexion in the trunk, a little bit of protraction, and then a little bit of shoulder flexion. So a really great way to get some forced use, allowing them to connect the upper limb into the trunk. And then of course, if that works out really well for your client, or if you so desire, you can have this with one arm only. So placing one arm either on the reformer for support if that person does have some weakness through that arm, just to make sure they're not going to be worried about falling on their face. So pressing forward. Of course, you may want to reduce the spring weight if they're just using one arm instead of 2. So leaning forward and then coming back up, or whatever type of spinal mobility you're looking for, right? Maybe it's neutral spine. Maybe you're looking for that nice little cat stretch or that bit of trunk flexion. Okay, so moving on from there, we're going to take the box off. Don't need that anymore. So for this next one, we're going to bring the chair right alongside the reformer here. I'm going to keep that gear bar and stopper at 1 and 1. I have the spring at 1 heavy spring or 1 red spring. Of course, you can adjust it accordingly. We're going to bring that 1 single leg up. Make sure your client is properly seated in the chair so they feel supported. But if you want to challenge their trunk, of course, you can have them forward with no support. So really up to you. We're going to work on that nice terminal knee extension and then that controlled return. So you get a little bit of eccentric quads on the way back in. So concentric quads and then eccentric quads. Of course, you can adjust the range of motion. If you want them closer, bring them closer. However, it really does depend on how much range your client does have. So we're reaching forward and then folding back in. So that's a pretty simple one. If you have a client that's a little bit more mobile, you can also do this kind of perching on the bar, although it's a little bit less comfortable on that bum. So we've got that one heel on the corner of the reformer, reaching out, and then folding it back in. So depends on what your needs are and the abilities of your client. The last one, we're going to have our platform extender in the gap here. So I'm just covering up the spring. Let me come around to the front. So we're sitting in the front here, scooching that bum all the way back. So we want those feet off the floor if possible. If you do find that your client's a little bit taller or your reformer just isn't quite the right height, you can take the platform extender and you can put it underneath the bum. But for now, I'll show you how to do it this way. We're going to place one hand right on the edge here, and we're going to think of that nice lateral support, that nice oblique activation, and then controlling it to come back in. We're keeping that shoulder down away from the ear, reaching out, and then letting the carriage come back in. Not the carrot, carriage. This glute is staying down on the carriage as much as possible. We don't want to lift it off. Reaching out, coming back in. So what happens if you have to have your client sitting on the platform extender? So we're going to have that underneath here, and then we can bring the bar up. So depending on your range of motion or your client's range of motion, you can have it, a little bit from the top, or you can have it all the way up to the top. I mean, I'm short, I don't need this. But pretending I did, we're gonna have a little bit more reach here with that carriage or the foot bar a little bit higher. Okay, so some garbled words there, but I hope you understand what I was trying to say. Thanks so much, and again, please comment if you have any questions.